Hi, I'm Sharon Knight. Really great to see you again. I am from Hope Communities, which is a nonprofit that has been in the Denver community for 40 plus years and serving some of the most vulnerable in the city all that time with housing, educational programs, and support services. We also have focused throughout the tenure of the organization on building community, which is one reason why we're hosting these Facebook Live sessions. I'm wondering, did you watch any of the One World Together at Home broadcast on Saturday? There were lots of performers who were just awesome to listen to and telling good messages and lending their support to healthcare professionals around the world and other essential workers as well. Dr. Sue Varma was one of the presenters, and she talked about the 4 M's of mental health to get us through this pandemic. And I just wanted to mention them for a minute. They are mindfulness, mastery, movement, and meaningful engagement. We've touched on some of these in some of the Facebook Live sessions that we've done already, but I just want to focus on them again. Mindfulness is being present. So, in this sense, it would be taking stock of where you are, what you're doing, how you're feeling, and what you need. So we don't want people to suppress their feelings, and we know there's a lot of raw feelings right now because this is such an unusual time, an unprecedented time for most of us. And so we want to be able to really understand what we're feeling and what's going on in our lives and be able to respond to it. We do know that there are increased reports of domestic violence and other abuse. And this is a likely environment for that because there is so much stress. So I really want to make sure that you understand that it is okay to take time out for yourself to deal with some of these issues. And if you need help, reach out to us at Hope Communities. We have an email that you can write to, info@hopecommunities.org. There are lots of community resources out there, and if you're not aware of them, we can help you understand where they are and how to contact people. Mastery was the second M in those 4 M's, and that's learning a new skill or doing something better than you've done before. I know a lot of people are getting back into cooking or reading or writing or learning languages, and those are things that help you to feel like you're accomplishing something to help you get through this pandemic. Movement is a big thing. I've mentioned that a lot because I know it's personally important to me. So it is really essential that you get some kind of exercise, maybe that you get outside to move, that you just get your body in action. You can do any type of exercise, cycling, walking, running, whatever you want to do. Unfortunately, there's a few things that most of us can't access, like swimming right now, but there are many things that can help you to elevate your blood pressure to in the immediate, and then to really move those and work those muscles. Meaningful engagement is the fourth M, and face it, we're social animals. We need connectedness, and it's kind of tough right now for a lot of people. So I hope that you are checking in on some people. I hope that some are checking in on you. But one of the reasons that we are doing this program is because we know that there are lots of people out there that are alone in their homes and they may not have a big social network. So we at least want to reach out to you on a personal basis and let you know that you are not alone. So what's new with the virus, the pandemic? The mayor of Denver gave an update earlier today. He talked about things like the fact that some of the state parking lots for the state parks and city parks are closed because so many people are flocking to them and not paying attention to the social distancing rules. So people can still walk around and go into the parks, but we don't want a lot of cars there and a lot of people congregating all together. He also told us about the fact that there's a women's shelter in the Coliseum now, and that golf courses are going to be opening up pretty soon. People will still need to keep social distance, but they'll be able to get out there and golf. The governor is giving us some more information about our recovery process, at 3:30 today, so just after this presentation. So, we already have about 9,400 confirmed cases in Colorado, and 422 people have passed away as a result of the virus, which makes it really crazy to me that there were some people who were protesting at the Capitol this weekend to end the stay-at-home order. I know it is frustrating to be in the house and to have our movements restricted, but the governor and the mayor would not be doing these things if it wasn't really thought out and really for the positive purpose to help us get through this pandemic quicker. So I hope that you will be able to comply with the processes that we have talked about, which still focus on social distancing, keeping at least 6 feet away from people, wearing a mask when you're in public, especially when you're in someplace in fairly close quarters like a grocery store, cleaning your hands thoroughly, at least 20 seconds over and over, and cleaning the surfaces in your home. There are other things that you can do as a preventive measure, but these are the most important things to help keep you on track to stop spreading the virus and hopefully to avoid getting the virus altogether. This show, we're going to be focusing almost entirely on kids. So a lot of us are dealing with kids at home and trying to homeschool them. Parents are used to going to work and the kids are going off to their own environment. And so it's a very unusual circumstance for parents to be all in a house with kids while they are still supposed to be doing schoolwork. So if it was vacation, it's one thing, but it's not really vacation. So we're going to go through some information about what the schools have offered, what kids are supposed to be doing, and some tips to help parents and kids get through this. So one of the first and important things that I have mentioned, I think even the last session, was that it's very important to have a schedule. It's important for all of us, but it's particularly important for kids, and even more so for kids who might have special needs. So it really helps to have a schedule planned out pretty much hour by hour and sometimes by half hour. And you want to try to keep to that schedule just like the kids would if they were at school. But you also have to give yourself a break and understand there's got to be some flexibility. Because after all, many of the parents who are at home have more than one child. You're trying to juggle different types of classwork. You're trying to also take care of the home and all the other things, the extra cleaning and so forth. And so you have to be trying to follow a schedule, but give yourself a break and know that sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit flexible. But, if your kids were at school, they would have certain subjects at certain times. They'd have meals at certain times. They'd have recess at certain times. And so kind of trying to fit some kind of a schematic of all of those things into your day could be really helpful for them and, of course, helpful for you. You also want to make sure that you take some time for fun. So keeping active is important for all of you. It'll keep everybody calmer. It'll help people to sleep better. It'll give them more energy. Schools have recess for a reason. It's mostly for the kids, but also for the teachers. We all need a little bit of a break. And so you need to figure out a way to make that happen. Your recess or break time could include going outside. You could be biking. You could do simple things like hide and seek. You could just be going off in little areas where you can still see your kids, but having them have a little bit of private space and they can have a snack or whatever, but just using that time to be active and to get away from the school environment. So the goal is to keep all of our kids learning and keep all of our kids growing, but not to fill your days with just impossible tasks and goals. So we need a consistent workspace for kids, which in a home could be challenging if you have several kids, but try to carve out a little bit of table space or counter space or desk space if kids have some of that in their rooms so that they know that's their workspace, which is different from their play space. I think we all try to do that all the time, and I know a lot of employees, even the employees at Hope, who are working from home, have some challenges of separating the workspace with their relaxation space, because they don't want to feel like work or school, in this case, is going on all day long. So do what you can to try to make that good workspace for kids that has good light, that has appropriate technology if you have access to that. Now, technology is one of the challenges that some families are facing. The DPS staff, Denver Public School staff, has said that they will try to help. I know that most of the households with kids have gotten Chromebooks, but parents were to have reached out to the school pretty early on, before school started again after school break, to ask for added technology if they didn't have any at home. So you've missed that first deadline, but that doesn't mean you can't get it again. You can still reach out to the school. In fact, Denver Public Schools has ordered about 5,000 new Chromebooks. And so while the first priority was for high school students and then one per household, if you have several kids in a household, you really might need more than that. And so go back to the school, reach out to them via email or phone, and try to see if you can get the technology to support the kids' learning in your household. Now, some families do not have or regularly haven't had internet. The school can also help with that. Xfinity or Comcast has said that they would give 2 months of free internet. And in fact, they can put up hotspots to help increase the signal, especially in groups that have many people who are in them. And so reaching out to the school is important, because now almost all of your curriculum for almost all of our kids is online. And some kids will have actual scheduled video conference times with teachers where they're interacting online with their teachers. Some will have classes that are posted online and they watch videos, or they look at assignments online and then they work independently. And in some cases, the families don't have appropriate technology. They're getting packets at home. We've heard that a lot of kids are not participating in online classes and they're not completing their homework. It is so important that you try to help your kids stay on track. I mean, it's going to be way too much to try to catch up later. They have stress now, so we don't want to make them too nervous about it. But if you can methodically work through helping them get some of those assignments done, I think it will mean the world now, but it will also have longer term ramifications. So I know that this method of school is not going to work for everybody. Some kids just need to have that personal interaction with teachers, but we're all doing the very best that we can. DPS, the Denver Public Schools, has a coronavirus resource page that I think is really good. There's a lot of great resources on there. Of course, that is at dpsk12.org. So if you can go on there and find the resources, there's lots of great links to math and to science and to all kinds of things related to your kids' schoolwork. There's actually lesson plans for each grade, and you have to go on and sign on the portal, the teacher portal, to get on for your kids' information. So what you'll need to have is your student ID number, which is going to be their username, and then their password. It's an 8-digit password that matches the 8 digits of their birth date. So let's say it was June 5th, 1999. It would be 060599. So I know that's an older date for the kids who are in school now, but that's just an example of what that would look like. So, not every kid will be able to manage this on their own or even with their parents. There are some very nice resources online for tutors as well, some on the computer and actually some by phone. There are some paid resources, but there's also some that are free. There is an online tutoring program that's run by a nonprofit that is called Learn to Be, and it actually is learntobe.org, where you can go and fill in information about your kid, the age, the grade, where they are in terms of classwork, and then somebody from that organization will reach out and try to figure out what would be a good scenario for you for tutoring. There's a whole bunch of other ones, and as a matter of fact, we have volunteers at Hope Communities who had said that they would also tutor kids. We've had a couple of tutors working with kids even before this pandemic started, and they are just doing a phenomenal job. One kid that I can think of has really excelled because of her tutor. And so if you are not wanting to go through a nonprofit that you don't really know that much about yet, and you want to reach out to Hope Communities, we can see if we can find the right volunteer to tutor your kid or your children. So social emotional growth and development is going to be super important now beyond the academic side of what you're doing with your kids at school. So you want to try to be calm for your kid. You want to try to help to give them a sense of urgency for school, but not put too much pressure on them. And they need to, like all of us, stay connected. So trying to figure out a way to help them stay connected to teachers, to their school, to their friends. And so one of the things that I've heard is that teachers actually are doing a lot of calling to kids to check in on families. And so that's a two-way street. If your kid needs to talk to the teacher, try to email or try to set up a time where they can actually talk one-on-one with the teacher or teachers that they have and probably miss. And none of us as adults are going to probably be as good as any of those teachers. And you might have your kids tell you you are not as good as their teacher. I've heard that before myself. But again, we're all doing the best we can, and your kids are frustrated, and so they're striking out like that. Please try to take it in stride and just go on and say, we are going to get through this together. I also really am in favor of a integrated curriculum. I used to be an elementary teacher years ago, and I was also a teacher in a private school that had kids at all different ages. And I found that an integrative approach of combining different subjects together was really effective. It also seemed more fun. It also really keyed in on different learning styles for kids. So I would encourage you to try some of that. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So one of the things that I've done is using cooking with kids to help them improve their understanding of math. Fractions, adding, subtracting, multiplying, measurement, even time. These are all things that they have to learn in school, and they're all things that are very much needed when you're cooking. So if you think about making quesadillas. So you have one tortilla that you put down. You can say, we're going to have 1/8 cup of these different ingredients, and let the kids pick those ingredients to put on there, and maybe a 1/4 cup of cheese, and then put the cover on. Cook it in the oven, 350 degrees for like 10 minutes, take it out, cool, and then use a pizza cutter or a knife, and let's talk about fractions. Okay, this is the whole. What would it look like if we were going to take half of that tortilla? What would it look like if we had 4 kids and we wanted everybody to have an equal size? And what about if we had 8 kids who wanted to equal size? And regardless of the math, one kid at some point is going to say, well, if we cut it in 8, there's just not enough food. That's just par for the course. Keep on going. And then, you can actually go and you can talk about, well, how many 1/8 equals a 1/4 and how many 1/4 equals a 1/2. And so they can see visually. I know it sounds simplistic, but sometimes people need to read things. Sometimes they need to do things Sometimes they need to see things. This allows them to read, see, and do. So it's integrating all those different learning styles all together. And you can do that type of thing with all kinds of food. I mean, some of the ones that I've started out with kids in would be like mini pizzas with homemade dough or store-bought dough, and then just toppings and a little bit of pizza or tomato sauce. Homemade hummus. You could use lots of different kinds of beans, but a lot of people use garbanzo beans. A little bit of lemon and juice and some spices, and you're just about there. I mean, it's very, very easy, but it gives them all these chances to measure and to use some creativity, even in how they arrange things when they're done. And then, things like pasta, there's shish kebabs, homemade chicken. So lots of different things that they could do that are simple and pretty healthy. So that also help them to understand math better and maybe get some reading in. So that's a great integrated approach. This is the time that you could also have kids create their books. I mean, the story of their life through this pandemic has got to be an interesting time. So if they had journals or something, they could practice writing, they could practice reading to you, they could illustrate, they could actually do a book and put it together for that tactile approach to creating a book. And one of the projects that I've done with kids before is actually combining the cooking with a book. This is a little bit old school, and you can do it different ways now, but I had a group of kids in my house, and we had a sustained period of time where I said, what are the things that you love to eat? And we decided that we were going to pick breakfast, lunch, and dinner things that the kids could each highlight as their favorites. And then they could look for recipes and use the computer to write them all out. And then we would take pictures of them in the cooking process and then also with their finished products. We did this as a Mother's Day gift. Now, we did it in a little photo book, but it is a really cool project. I mean, here's Angela's pancakes. She loves pancakes, and all the kids are cooking. And then, somebody did choose shish kebabs, so we had to look for just the right recipe. And then we've got a picture of the kids putting things together. It's really a fun thing that could be a memorable thing, and Mother's Day is right around the corner, of course, so you could use that type of a project to actually make something that they would be proud of forever on, but it has them using all those different skills. There's lots of science experiments and projects that you can do at home. Earth science, of course, is unnatural. If people can get out and look at the earth and the trees and planting, you could start to grow some food from seeds using potatoes or avocados or carrots, getting bean seeds actually to start some things. My son started a plant from an avocado seed when he was young, and that plant is now about 10 feet tall. So, really, it does grow, and it's really fun for them to watch that process. The National Geographic has some really nice free online resources right now, as does the Space Foundation Discovery Center. That's through statefoundationdiscoverycenter.org. You can also look on NASA. They have a program that shows what it's like the day in the life of the space station, the International Space Station, which would be cool to look at the science around that, but also with people in close quarters, they might really relate to that. And then, of course, Steve Spangler, who many of you might know, Steve Spangler Science, has lots of ideas. He has experiments online, so that could be really fun for you. There's some really good history and government things online too. I know some of the older kids will probably need to use some of those, but even a fourth or a sixth grader who might be studying American history, you can use an integrative approach. I've done this before where, let's say we're looking at people in Jamestown in that period of time. You could study about it, you could read about it, you could have kids dressed like it, you could eat the food that they ate at that time, you could play music or sing songs from that time. So you start to do things that bring that history to life. And they might even have some correlation of feeling like, gosh, we're kind of having to go back to basics now. We don't have all the things that we usually had. They might kind of feel some of that from those earlier times. Health is also a great subject to dive into now in terms of nutrition and also in terms of having exercise and thinking about muscles and so forth. I mentioned myfitnesspal.com a while back, and that is a great tool to monitor the nutrition that you're bringing into your body, the calories that you're expending, as well as bringing in, and then also just monitoring the exercise. So as kids get stronger and stronger, they can watch that progress. The emotional and mental health is also part of that health in terms of subject. And so just understanding the emotions, we talked about this a little earlier in the show, and being able to express them, having the adults in the family model how to express emotions properly is very, very important. They might even do an emotion wheel so that if they're getting really frustrated and they're not sure what to do, being able to point to how they actually feel is sometimes helpful, especially for younger kids. So there's so many different things that you can do at home to help them get through that. There's, like everything through this pandemic, there's going to be some really good days when parents and kids feel right on track. And then there's going to be some days that are not so good. Maybe they're not as effective at school. Maybe they're more emotional. Maybe they're lonely and moody. But that's just going to be the way it is, and we're going to have to get through it. So it's not going to be a piece of cake, but it is going to be what it is, and we can always make it better just by bringing that structure and taking a step back and standing back and saying, okay, what's going on here? What are the emotions? What are we missing? And trying to analyze that, and then making the next day just a better day. So lots and lots of resources online. I mean, Google is amazing right now. We are also going to post a list of a ton of resources on our website so that you can find the appropriate one for your kid, because every kid is different. So look there. Also, if there's any way that some of our staff who usually do after-school programs and mentor programs working with kids can help, send us an email at info@hopecommunities.org. And if you're going to our website to look for these resources, again, it's hopecommunities.org. So hopefully you'll find what you need. Now, the last thing that we do on this series of Facebook Live shows is to talk about a book review. We're going to post one a little bit after this show on our Facebook page, and it is a review of actually a series of books by author Anthony Horowitz. The whole series of books, and there are 9 books there, are action-packed adventure, and they focus around a 14-year-old boy who is called Alex Ryder. He was left as an orphan when his uncle and guardian died, and he thought that he died in a car accident, but that really wasn't how it happened. And so you get to learn about what happens in his life and how he becomes a spy, a very effective spy. So I think that because we're talking about kids and because we are trying to help engage them and help them through this crisis, that they would love this book series. It's particularly focused on middle-aged kids. And as I mentioned before, I was a teacher, and I know some kids love to read and some kids really have to be drawn into it. I have never met a kid that I introduced this book series to who didn't like it. So that's saying a lot. And I hope that you and your kids can pull this down from the library or get one or more of the books during this time that we are on stay at home. It'll be a really, really fun way for them to continue reading. And maybe you could integrate a curriculum and even do some acting out or something like that. So hopefully you will have smooth sailing through your homeschool experience during your stay-at-home order. If there's anything that we can do to help, let us know. Have a really great week. Thank you.